hang on. I don't know
Okay.
if
Are we live?
we're live now. We got to start over. We just went live. For
Okay.
some reason, it didn't make. Hang on.
Your
Didn't
bits
make
were
the
too low.
connection.
You're a bit right. You're a bit right.
Your bit was wrong.
Let
Bit
me.
wrong.
Okay, we're gonna redo this. I thought we were live the whole time, and it looks like YouTube didn't quite make the connection. I thought
Well,
it did. So,
this thing
happy
came
Mother's
up.
Day.
Yes.
Happy Sunday, happy Mental Health Month. I'm here with Cheryl and Sara, two gifted women, and we're going to talk about women's mental health today, particularly the needs of gifted and highly gifted women. So I figured I'd start by letting Cheryl and Sara say a little bit about themselves and their background. So Cheryl, welcome back.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you. I had such a good time. I had to come back. Um, and I just want to say happy Mother's Day to those wonderful mothers out there. It's such a beautiful day here. I, of course, am still in British Columbia, Canada. So Canada says hello to you. And of course, gifted. I thought I'd wear my gifted shirt today. Gifted.
Gifted.
And we want to talk about gifted women, especially highly gifted women, mental health needs, because it's a very rare thing. When you think gifted, you don't automatically think woman. It doesn't automatically come into your head. And maybe it ought to, because there's plenty of gifted girls out there that need our help and have their own needs and their own requirements. So that's what I'm hoping that we can get into as well. I know in my job as a sort of an EA educational assistant professor helping special needs kids, giftedness is a special need. And I make sure that my students are very aware that it is a special need, that we can't just skip it. If anybody saw the previous video, that is kind of essential, maybe even one of the most essential things that we can do to help make the world such a better place. So that's my intro. Welcome, everybody.
Well, welcome back. And Sara, you too, welcome back. I talked to you last week. So
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, you've pulled me into your world here of talking about giftedness. I like it because it does get me thinking about things that I haven't thought about before. Like when Cheryl mentioned that, I started thinking, and I don't think I've come across a topic of HPEG, Hep G, and gifted for women ever, let alone with the mental health angle. I'm Sara Cash. I am a gifted adult female. I'm the mother of a gifted child. And I work with gifted kids. I love working with gifted kids. So a few different angles to approach this from. And hello from Oregon is where I am.
oh, well, thank you. Good to have you back. I will start us out with what this is. You're going to lead the conversation because, not being a woman, I know very little about the needs of women or gifted women. But I'm going to start us out with one question. As a mental health professional myself who works primarily with men and gifted and neurodivergent men, what are the particular needs that somebody not familiar with gifted women or women's mental health would need to know? So what are the primary needs of women in mental health related, and then gifted women on top of that, if there are additional needs that the giftedness brings?
Oh man, that's a big question, isn't
That's
it?
a big question. Yeah.
What do you think? You want to do you want to take it, Sharon? Well, maybe we should both take it. Maybe we should both take our
On
own turn.
one, Cheryl, if it depending on the age, having schooling, a positive schooling situation can be really challenging because, as Cheryl mentioned, gifted education is a special need, because what special need means by definition is that you need some sort of academic support beyond what you're going to receive in the regular classroom setting. So flat out, it qualifies. Now, when we talk about giftedness, we mostly hear about kids and education, so I don't want to go too far down that path. But I would say, I wonder, maybe I'll tell you what I think would be issues for gifted women in mental health, seeking mental health support, and see what Cheryl thinks and see what you think, how far it or close it is to what it is for men. I would say loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to find peers, particularly as you go up that scale of giftedness that they like to present with the different levels. And by the time you get to the top there, it's very rare to encounter someone that you can really engage with, even in one area, let alone fully engage with in your life.
Absolutely.
So hard
Absolutely.
to find close friends, hard to find a partner. People
Oh,
mad at work,
you cut out briefly. I didn't hear the last phrase or so.
hard to find friends, hard to find peers, hard to find a partner, hard to not make people mad at work.
Ugh,
Oh,
yeah.
I definitely
Because
relate to that one.
smart, you're too smart. You're 22 years old and you're smarter than your boss. I remember those days very,
Oh God.
you know,
Yeah. Heck, I'm still there. We're still
have
there.
facility, of how to handle that. And I'm starting to get into personal stuff. So that's what I would say. I would say loneliness. And I would say, isn't that kind of the underlying problem of so many things? Like, I'm not somebody, however, who struggles with what they call overexcitabilities. I think a lot of gifted women would probably bring that with them to therapy. I
Mhm.
enjoy my overexcitability. Does that make me a rare butterfly? I don't know. Maybe mine are just more tolerable. I don't. Um, but I guess I have some I don't enjoy, but some of them are great. And so I'm going to toss that out and send it back to Cheryl, and then maybe some more stuff will pop up as we talk about it a little bit more.
Gosh, I have so many places, but I'm gonna try and, you
Yeah.
know, put it in there. I think I agree with you. The loneliness is a big thing. I think the thing for women, especially because we just hit it off, me and you, like I think we're so much the same. So
Yeah.
that makes me feel less alone
Mhm.
because we are here. We are women who, are alive, are here. We are very intelligent. We're both um amazing in our own abilities. So I would say that that is a big thing. I think that being older women, mature, um, we have been through a lot of stuff where people kind of make you feel like it is you, like you're like somehow you're not like gifted women are kind of this rare thing, but giftedness is really not a woman thing. Like you don't think about women. So if I can get a little bit like that just for a second, not so much now, thank goodness, but I know when I was younger, I definitely got that. Oh, she's this poor white girl. She lives in the projects. She can't be smart. So, and I think that happens for girls nowadays. So I would say that it is a big point that we are professional women, we are women who have something to say, we are and we are sort of expanding into that more academic and business realm all the time. So I think that that's a very big piece. And the OEs, if I can talk about that, which are not it's not the greatest translation, of course, from was it the Polish with Dabrowski's work, but it's true. And women already get blamed for that. Oh, you're so emotional. Oh, you're so sensitive. So I want to add that part. Yeah, we're even more sensitive because a lot of women, if not most women, that I think are gifted also are highly sensitive and often are empaths at the same time. So I know I am those things. And that's, again, adds another layer of complexity because you don't have to be an HSP or an empath to be gifted, but it's often something that is a connection, like they're almost often there. So I'd say that, and that's all me, man. I'm all of it. So I agree. And so that makes it hard for girls too to be taken seriously, if I would say. And as a gifted adult, to be taken seriously, because I'm cute. I know I'm cute. I don't have the other stuff, but I'm also more than cute. I'm very, very intelligent, the smartest person in the room, always, except in this room, because we're all together. So I think it's a struggle to be taken seriously sometimes as a woman who is maybe psychomotor, excited, talks a lot, can't stop talking. She doesn't stop talking, and is terribly sensitive, cries at movies, man, I cry when a plant dies, because it's just, it's so
It's
overwhelming,
sad.
right? Am I right?
Yeah, it's sad.
So, and people think you're funny or whatever. So yeah, I think that leads itself to the trauma, which we can talk about later or
Well,
not
let me
either.
toss this one at you, Cheryl. How about you're too demanding?
Oh God. Yes. Can't you just be happy with anything? Can't you just be happy with anything? No, I can't be happy with what you're giving me because I need more than that. Thank you. Did that happen to you? Yeah.
What
Or
are
no, not ladylike. I'm sorry, but I did get that.
oh, the pressure to be like to
Not
conform to
ladylike.
some
Why are you doing that? Yeah.
societal image of how
Don't
women.
outshine the boys. All that stuff. Well, the boys better get smarter then, because I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just so easy to outshine them.
Now, in the
What?
States, they say that's shifting now, that the girls are doing better in school and getting into college and the boys aren't.
Actually,
So, yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I'd agree
Well,
that in Canada. I'd agree that in Canada too. Yeah, we definitely are having a boy problem now in that sense, in academia for sure.
it's
Girls are
telling
doing
me
a
my
lot.
connection is unstable, so we might I
Oh
might
crap.
freeze up. So Cheryl, have you found strategies or way? How do you get your voice heard? Have you learned to overcome
I'm
that
more
somehow?
assertive. I'm more assertive. Like if I can talk about our wonderful group for a minute. I know me and you were chatting about this, Jeff, about when a lot of gifted people get together, we talk,
Oh
especially
yeah,
for
we
verbal.
talk.
And you got to get in there, man. It's like a dog fight. You
You
got to
gotta
get
fight
in
for that
there.
mic.
You got to, you got to be, because if you're too polite, you'll never talk. So I had to learn to be a little more assertive, because normally all of us are usually the only one talking, if you know what I mean. The only one that is super excited, the only one that's super, oh my God, I want to talk about this amazing experience. Did you know that the James Webb Space Telescope is just so exciting? Or things that you are excited about, or, amazing things about literary criticism, or about, this amazing thing in, other kinds of science frontiers. So we're usually the only one talking. So when we get together, we're all like that. So I find myself being more assertive. I'm not afraid of being gifted anymore. And I don't know how you feel about this, Sarah, but I used to be, because people make you feel bad about it. And so it's almost like you're trying to hide it because you're trying to get along. I just want to be like everybody else. I don't do that anymore because I can't anyway. I would have people say to me, I bet you can't even pretend to be stupid. And I'm like, no, I can't really. Sorry. So, like, own it, man. Own the gorgeous, amazing, beautiful thing that you are. It is amazing. We need more of them.
Killing
So,
me, Cheryl.
oh,
I'm
really?
actually wiping a tear away from my eye.
What? What is it? What?
No, because you said I can't even pretend to be stupid.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so much for things working out, having you be a bimbo. You can forget that role in
Oh
life.
my God. They tried though. They tried, didn't they? They
Did you
tried.
feel that pressure, Sarah, or how did you like
Which pressure?
overcome or avoid falling into these stereotype roles that you
Now
felt
I'm
like
not
you should?
now I'm not sure what you're asking me. Try again. Sorry.
How did you, I guess, avoid becoming a bimbo or
Oh,
falling
well,
into?
I couldn't. Same thing. Like, I never even tried to hide. It never even occurred to me to hide myself,
Mm,
Were there
which
consequences for
which
that?
is a credit to my parenting that I received from my
mm.
family, because nobody in my family, okay, my family, but also basically my extended community as well, ever said, you can't do that, you're a girl, except that we couldn't take shop at the high school.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Yeah. We didn't take shop either. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you can't, but you can't do that. Nobody was laying that on me at any point in time and growing up, even though, it was the 70s. So that could have happened. But to their credit, nobody said that. Not even at church, all these places where you're supposed to maybe encounter these kinds of negative messages. So instead I heard just, just you're awesome. No, did I experience consequences for it? That's where the not being smart enough to figure it out comes in on my end. I couldn't figure out why I was constantly encountering the same sort of social dynamics. It never occurred to me to dumb myself down.
Mm.
So I never even tried.
That's beautiful, man.
However, I did withdraw into my private intellectual world that I enjoy very much. I really don't need anybody else in there with me to have a wonderful time in there, right? But as I'm getting more into these gifted online communities, I'm starting to find some connections where getting into that world together leads to positive result.
Mhm.
With the two of you being examples of that, like Jeff's and my conversation the other day, leading to possible ideas about projects. And, Cheryl, you and I wouldn't have found each other prior to this whole new world that we're living in. So
I know.
she's saying, oh, it's so nice to have somebody I can just really talk to. And this is the thing, there's no effort for me in communicating with Cheryl.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't feel an effort, Jeff, in communicating with you. I feel like we just sit down and start talking.
And it's just
Which
great.
is how I approach all my communications. I can't say I haven't gotten better at communicating over the years, because I have,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's
more
that's
sensitive and
definitely true.
aware of making others more comfortable in communicating with me. I did, though, change my vocabulary. When I moved out of my parents' house, I dumbed my language down, but that wasn't because I thought I should dumb myself down. It was just that nobody had any idea what I was saying. Like I would finish the sentence and they'd go,
Yeah.
what?
I've had
So
that look.
I've got to say it in smaller words,
I don't do that.
and I haven't gotten out of that yet. Like it's
I don't
still,
know how to do that. I just feel like when that happens, I just assume I'm talking to the wrong person. Like, oops,
but sometimes
sorry.
I have to talk to him, Jeff.
Yeah, you have to talk to
Yeah,
them.
that's where the struggles come in and the communication
Yeah.
breakdowns.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
And
and
I haven't recovered from the dumbing down. It's interesting. I can't quite get back to that level of erudition that I had, earlier in my life.
okay.
I still have the
Amazing.
vocabulary. I just
Yeah.
struggle more to use it with facility.
I want to talk about that, Sarah, if I can, because that literally happened.
Absolutely.
As everybody may or may not know, huge trauma in my life, did not have a good upbringing, did not have a gifted family, because of my mother's, let's just say had a good time. And so I never knew my father, and he was very gifted. So I kind of grew up that way, where I was trying to hide myself and hide my abilities. And because they were so injured when they came out, I became this commodity. Oh, look, we can use Cheryl, or oh, look, Cheryl's this squeak toy for our own twisted, messed up pleasures. So I was like, no, thank you. So I became that person, but I came out of it when I got to university, which I was the only one that ever did go, putting it out there. I found other people who were like me, and I found a little more, like, I thought I was the one of my kind. And I think we all think that if we are separated, because we are so unique. And so that was so wonderful. So what I wanted to say was that you can get it back, because I'm getting it back. Being in this wonderful community, and you got to kind of keep up a little bit, especially when we all get together. And we have our wonderful chats. You kind of got to keep your wits about you a little bit, because, and I'm not used to having to do that. So I usually talk about the whole cheetah metaphor, which is such a powerful one for me. And if all you're doing is chasing rabbits and they're not going very fast, or you get, cheetah chow or something, and you're like in a cage, that's not going to get you anywhere. Right. But say you're out, and say you got to hunt the gazelle, man. That's a harder thing to do. So it wakens your experience up. It wakes you up. Your OEs wake up. You're still there. It was just dormant. So I think, Sarah, you're going to have that experience, because I know I have, because I know that these people know what I'm saying. So I don't have to veil my conversations for anybody. They get me. And I try not to do the stuff which I used to do, is like, how do you know that word? That's amazing. How do you know that word? I did that for so long. How do you know how to say that? And they're like, I don't know. I just figured it out. I just know it. Like Jeff and I'm going to mention it if I can. We had the most amazing talk yesterday about a literary criticism. And this amazing literary critic called Northrop Frye. I had never heard anybody, I have an English degree, talk about Northrop Frye before, and he has his books.
We're doing
So
a book club.
kudos to you.
I've
Yeah,
heard
we're
of
going to do a
Northrop
book club if
Frye.
anyone wants to join.
Well, he's like the most famous critic
Yeah.
from Canada ever, so I'm
I
surprised that
know, right?
more
So
people from
that's what I
Canada.
mean. I love that Jeff and I can talk about Northrop Frye, because my family would look at me with their mouth open. But then they were pretty stupid. They were not all there. So it was just nice to be able to have a conversation with somebody who knew what I'm saying. So you're going to get this, Sarah. Your vocab's going to come zooming back.
Well, and I didn't really mean that I wasn't having a struggle with it being gone. I'm just saying that it's been interesting. It's interesting because at one point it was a huge part of my identity and the way that I interact with the world. I'm pretty mellow at this point in my life. And so when I'm in that same group that Cheryl's talking about, the experience that I have is I don't actually feel like a cheetah because I don't feel like I need to compete for attention or try to keep up with the conversation. But what is amazing is that we can just simply talk. We don't have to pause to explain anything to anybody. We don't have to, right? We can just talk about all
You
those
just
things.
get it. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we think about women in places like in science, and in business and in government, and we have those amazing trailblazers that we've had, women like Madeleine Albright, for instance, who just are unafraid to flex their intellectual muscles in public and, go toe to toe with global leaders, for heaven's sakes, leaders of countries where women cannot leave their homes. Can you imagine Madeleine Albright doing that? I've tried to imagine what her experience was like, and she was so effective at it. But I'm just thinking that, as a female in a room, and I know this is changing, I see it in the younger generation that they have different ideas about male-female interactions, but it's still real. Here's a woman, let's just take this woman that's an example, and she's a scientist and she's brilliant, and she's way more interested in doing science than she is in becoming a mother.
Yes, and that's okay for her.
And maybe she wants to date her fellow co-workers, and maybe she doesn't. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
What would be nice would be able to bring to the workplace simply her mind, right? And not have to deal with the rest of the stuff that comes along with bringing her body into the workplace, because it's much more than just having to deal with unwanted sexual attention in the workplace. There's, depending on where you work and who you are working with and the work climate itself, there can be all kinds of factors that come into play. And that I believe that women experience that. I don't think that men experience it. Now, I'm an old school feminist, and so I'm still beating that tambourine, but I don't think it's gone. I'm going through something right now at my job. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, really? You're going to pull that one? You haven't learned any new tricks. He's our age. I'm like, you haven't learned any new tricks in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
One from 30 years ago, so there's that whole thing, because these women are still striding. When Cheryl and I were kids, for younger people who might be listening, it was still every week there was another first woman to do this, first woman to do that, first woman to
It
the
was. It was
climb
a
power
cool
poles and do
time.
the electrical lines, right? So we had all these trailblazers that we came along behind who were these amazing women. But then you still look around a room and you go, oh gosh, there's only one other chick here and she's not looking friendly, you know?
Yes, yes. We were kind of taught to not collaborate with each other, but be competition for each other.
Well,
I
I
think
saw that watching Black Swan, the way
Oh,
the
yeah,
girls were with them. I'm
the
like,
girls did not
women, I
like each
wouldn't want to be around with, like, they're horrible to each other. This is not a supportive
because
community at
we're
all.
taught to be competition for men, competition for jobs, competition for all kinds of things. So I think you
well,
have
and
to.
especially if you're young and beautiful. Can I say that? I'm old enough now that I can say that, right? I was young and beautiful. And so
Sure,
that added a whole nother layer of stuff because the older women were just like,
Patty. That
get
happened to me.
out of here. You know what I
So you
mean?
get it from men and other women then.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, yes, you do. Especially if you're good at
And then
something.
you get to be my age and the younger girls come along,
Yeah.
twitching their heinies. And those who twitch their heinies on purpose. I did not twitch my heinie on purpose. But if you're really pretty, you can't help it because the men can't help it. So, you can wear like a sackcloth and ashes to work.
And they'll still
Still gonna grab
do
you
it.
at the water cooler. I mean, that's
You
what
know, which was, oh my God, I have so many things I need to talk about. But that was an interesting thing. Because we had a younger girl at the meeting and it's true. And she was talking about some kind of sexual assault stuff. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing that in the movie. And then she talks about, I'm like, oh my God, that was sexual assault. That was a
like
weekly thing.
that would have been
That
standard
was
operating
like, you didn't talk
procedure.
about it. They just did what they wanted. You remember
Exactly.
the scene where he grabs her. And I didn't know it until it's like, oh my God, that is sexual assault. But we never saw it that
Right.
way.
Think of it that way. Yeah, if you don't need a weapon, we didn't consider it.
No, it's like, well, her clothes were still on. So I was like, she's doing better. You know what I mean?
I
So
have
that's
so
a
many
horror.
questions. I've heard this before.
Just ask him.
Ask her.
I've heard this before, but what do women experience that men may not realize in the workplace? And you had mentioned that you think things are changing with this current generation. How do
Well,
you see them changing?
I think they don't see you the same way. They see you either as this like woman that's super beautiful that they want to date, or like the cute, sort of kooky, interesting girl that maybe will do your homework. I was the cute, interesting, exciting girl that would do your homework. But they don't see you as like an equal in some ways to them. And they don't see you as that you might be as excited about something as they are. Like NASA is a great example. There are some women scientists there now, and that's awesome, like with the James Webb telescope and whatever. But I imagine they probably had to fight. And I gotta talk about one thing just for a second, because I just love it. I loved this. I posted, it was like a meme thing. I think you might have seen it, Sarah,
I know
where
what
there
you're
was
gonna say. Yeah.
the postdoc thing. And then she's like, you need to read McCarty et al. For the drivers of fire, because you don't know what you're talking about. And then she moves her long hair. She's like, I am McCarty et al., buddy. Thanks a lot.
He was criticizing her presentation, saying you need to read McCarty et al. On this subject. You're very far behind. And she said, I am McCarty.
I wrote that.
I wrote it.
Oh,
So,
was this a man telling her?
It was
yeah,
a man.
yeah, she's a
And it
young,
was a
beautiful
young man,
woman.
too.
Would a
Yeah.
woman have told her
Young
that, or could a woman have said the same thing?
That's a good question.
That's a good
I have to
question.
think about that for a minute.
Because men don't have that problem.
I don't think that
We have problems.
it would go down quite like that.
I mean, I think they
If
do.
a woman came
they
if
say-
a woman came up and talked to you about your work, they usually don't start off with, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, we don't really do that because we're not like that.
I don't know
And-
if men do or not. So that would be where we
maybe
have-
men do.
It depends on the man.
Well, and
Is-
there's this whole secret thing that somehow gifted people are bitchy or something. And I
Hmm?
think it comes from the Big Bang sort of metaphor or whatever.
Which
Big
I've
Bang.
never seen.
We are not bitchy.
Are they
We
bitchy
are
on the show?
sweet and can't. Oh yeah, really.
Oh,
Or you know,
Maybe she
socially
means-
awkward.
Maybe she means snarky, Jeff.
Yeah,
oh.
I mean, like
I
you
mean,
know,
we can. It depends on the
like
individual gifted person, but non-gifted people can be snarky too, or
but it's
bitchy,
just
or
that
awkward.
I've never met. I have honestly never met a gifted person who wasn't sweet, who wasn't friendly, who wasn't accommodating. Because
Oh, I
have you?
dated one.
I'm
No,
not
but
You
just-
did
it
date
caught me
one.
by surprise, though. You're right, because I thought because he was gifted that I wouldn't run into those problems. So
I
it
mean,
was
I guess you
surprising
could.
to find that from another gifted person.
You
But I
thought you
mean,
would, and you thought you would avoid what, Jeff? That's interesting.
The psychopathy, the moral
we're better than
bankruptcy,
that, right?
Oh,
complete
We
absence
hope.
of empathy. Yeah, like all the gifted people I know, along with their intelligence, comes like this moral depth and breadth and sensitivity. So I'm used to like growing up, find the gifted people. Those are your people. Those are the people you can trust. They're going to help you. You can rely on them. So all my life, when I find gifted people, I try to make really strong connections with them because that's what my
Gotcha.
experience has led me to expect.
gotcha.
And
Right.
so I did that with this guy, and it turned out the complete. And he was like the first gifted person. I'm like, but he's gifted. How could he be so evil and awful? Gifted people are not like that.
So
Well,
I get
I have one thing that I say in these situations when people talk to me about giftedness, because they know my work and they come to me for advice and with questions, out just as humans together. I have one thing to say about that, and I have one word: Unabomber. I have two words: Ted Bundy.
yeah, but was he gifted though? Because I don't know if he was.
I think he was. He
They
took it.
may. I've read the Unabomber's manifesto. He may have been, and the point is, yes, there can
His
be.
manifesto was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I've read it. Yeah. Oh
Okay,
my God,
maybe.
there's some really good stuff here. But some
Yeah, I
other
was
stuff
surprised at how much I was into it.
Well,
Mhm.
you could go off the deep end because there
Mhm.
is a connection between giftedness and madness.
We're not immune from
I mean, that is a truth.
psychopathy and
Human, of
narcissism
course,
and
we could have any human
pathology.
experience. Yeah, and mental, physical, spiritual,
Because we
emotional.
feel things so deeply.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I think that we can get in depression, we can get anxiety. I think you by
Mhm.
nature have more anxiety. As a
Maybe
gift.
even more with the sensitivities.
God knows I have terrible anxiety. Oh my God. But then that's probably the PTSD. So we could talk about PTSD and gifted women too.
Well, I will say that in my personal experience, I have experienced, and you have to remember this goes back a long time. I went into college in 1987, so we're getting
Yeah.
way back there.
Yeah, you, me, sister. Yay.
Right. Yeah, but so
Me too.
I encountered what I only just realized in the last few months. I realized because, again, like Jeff, I was like, oh, I wouldn't be experiencing that there. I was experiencing intellectual chauvinism. I wasn't allowed to be part of the conversation because I was female.
Oh, that happens. That has happened.
And I was female and I was smart. And I was female and I was smart, and I didn't feel like I needed to hide it.
Yes.
And to top it all off, I was gorgeous. Problem, okay? Walking into a room full of males, and they're baby males. They are also students, right? But and then the professor does not intervene, okay? So I have had experiences at the university, and this is part of why I dropped out the first time around, where the entire room would sit with their back to me and pretend like I was not there.
Oh my God.
And I was not doing anything different than anyone else was doing in the room. The only difference was that I was a girl. Now, I think things have gotten better than that, at least in the United States.
Oh yeah. No,
What
I think
What did
Yeah.
you do? Like, how did you overcome that? Or
I dropped
Yeah.
out of school. I
so
finally
you
was like,
didn't
this,
find a way to get taken seriously.
you know what? I sought out support and I didn't get it. Remember how I talked to last time and I said I kept asking for help and didn't get help. So I didn't get the help, support that I could have needed, even from other women. Okay.
yeah.
But I just realized that I was surrounded by people that I quite honestly didn't want to be wasting my time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
And I
Mhm.
was
that's
too,
fine.
I was too young to realize the value of the degree-free college education that I was giving up. I was too young to understand that,
Mhm.
and just too damaged to manage to navigate the situation from my own childhood trauma.
I mean, that's
But yeah,
challenging.
in hindsight, I realized I'm like, my God, what could that professor possibly have been thinking? Right when I look back,
Yeah.
and but then I think, well, wait a minute, he wasn't the only one. Oh, and wait a minute, there was, oh my gosh. And so it might have a little different flavor in the different rooms, right? Like one professor would walk up and put his genitals right in front of my face.
What?
Yeah, they did stuff like that.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
It was the casual sexism. It was very casual.
They're in their pants, but they walk up to your desk
And
and
they're
they
like,
put their hands in their pockets and
On purpose?
they
oh,
yank their
yeah.
junk
Oh,
up
I
and then
would
they stick their genitals in your
knock him
face.
or tell him get out the way. Excuse me.
Yes, but most women are taught to be pliant,
Mhm.
don't make people mad. Oh, don't get mad. No one likes an angry woman. Who else has heard that?
I don't know if there's genitals in my face. To me, that
I
would go out the
mean, oh
window.
my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you, Sarah. Yeah, similar things kind of thing. But I mean, I guess having the abusive childhood I had, what I would say about especially age-peg women and mental health, if I can talk about it, because that sparked my idea when you said that, which is why I love hanging out with you guys, because you spark my ideas. We do have an internal locus of control in the sense that I do, maybe you do. You have this engine almost, this ambition to be more. And I think it's part of the Dabrowskian experience, but I am going to do more. The third factor, maybe, I am going to be more. And that was a very big thing. That's why I went to university when no one in my family had ever gone. We lived in the projects. They didn't, I mean, I grew up in hell, man. I did, I'm this like golden child girl, and they're like, basically in the sort of really hellish experiences. And I decided I wasn't going to live that way at 8, 9 years old. And I'm like, I'm going to go to school. And we did have, student loans, and they were really often, well used. And I thought, I can do that. I know I can do that. And that's what I did do. Now, I mean, of course, I had people pulling from the other side, because they didn't want me to be successful. But when I was young and nimble, that's the thing I lament right now is in my 50s, I don't have that youth anymore. I don't have that. I can stay up all night and write the paper. Go to hell, mom. I can stay up. I can not eat. I can do those things. I got autoimmune now, man, because of stuff, I need my help. I need rest. I need things. But that's what I would say is something that I think is different from highly gifted women to average women, is this drive to succeed, this almost like I'm going along for this ride compulsion to be
Mhm.
something, to do something. And that saved me. That has helped me so much. I have multiple degrees. I'm a college professor now. Go to hell, all of you who tried to keep me down. Here I am. That's what I would say. But do you feel that way, Sarah, too? Or Jeff, have you guys experienced that? It's the men's side. What do you think?
Sarah?
What do you
I was just captivated by what you were saying and wasn't thinking about myself.
Thanks.
So if
Thank you, man.
somebody was, yeah, no, seriously, I was. I would say that I'm a bit of a queer egg, even in the gifted world. Do you know what I mean? Because like the things that I would have that kind of drive around aren't
Mhm.
necessarily related to intellectual inquiry or work.
Okay. Yeah, mine really were. Because I
So,
came from such a low place and I
right.
wanted to elevate myself and be in more
Well,
upper
kudos to
echelon.
you, Cheryl. What a great story you have to tell. It reminds me of my mom's story
Oh,
a little
really?
bit.
Thank you.
She
Yeah.
just was, yeah, she went off to college and it was amazing and she had to earn every penny and you know what I mean? Yeah. And she encountered, much worse chauvinism than I
I
did.
can imagine those poor
Chauvinism.
women, like those
Not,
women doctors
not
that,
the subtle I'll swing it in your face, get out of the room. How can we run you off? But blatant, overt, yeah.
oh,
So,
yes.
yeah,
Yes.
but no, so I don't have that. That's why I say sometimes that for me, my gifted experience, it's quite different than I would think it is for a lot of gifted people. But I think there are other gifted folks out there like me. They're kind of quiet. They're sort of on the fringes of these Facebook pages, posting here's my blog, here's my nature blog. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And it's
Yeah.
photograph that they take every morning when they take their walk, and they write about what it smelled like, or how the snow felt on their lips or whatever. And that's me more. And
Mm.
yet I'm not a creative who creates on a professional level, meaning that I could earn money doing it.
Mhm.
My writing. In my
Mhm.
earlier days, I could with my music too.
Right.
I had an injury to my throat, and so my voice is different than it was. But yeah, so I can't say that I'm a creative, right? Gifted, and I can't say I'm a gifted creative or a creative person who's gifted. I'm just kind of I'm just me,
You're
and it's
you, and you're wonderful, and you're rural too, you're country.
and I love intellectual inquiry that's stimulating. Like you
Yes.
say, when you find somebody like, really, you read that? Oh my God, we could talk about that. It's so exciting. So that's a huge part of me. But I don't have the focus of that I've had an area of study or inquiry. It's so interesting, these folks who have gone into academia and have so much to say about mitochondria or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. I could talk about mitochondria for quite some time. They
I'm
are the
like
powerhouse of the cell and much more.
I'm just like a butterfly, and I flit from topic to topic. No, that tastes good for a while, and then that for a while.
Yes.
Well,
Which is,
there is the concept of the multi-potentialite, which I think you talked about last time we talked.
so aren't they supposed to maybe be good at what they do?
I don't
You
know.
are
I'm
good at
kind of a
what you do.
dilettante too. I
Yeah,
have the drive too. Mine's more of a drive to stimulate my brain with new knowledge and experiences and like aesthetic and artistic and intellectual experiences. I don't really necessarily have a drive to create something with that, but I have to constantly be consuming, reading, watching
me too.
things,
Yeah.
talking,
Brain
listening to
food.
music, brain
I call
food
it brain food.
constantly. Like
Yes, we
I
need
can't
it.
go a day without.
Yeah,
I have
without
that
brain.
drive for it. Even when I'm in a doctor's office, I've got to find something. I can't read just like the People
Yeah.
magazine. I've got to
Like
find
there has
something
to be
interesting. Give me the medical pamphlet.
Yes, because that's what your body craves and your mind craves.
Yeah.
And I think that's where healthness, thank God.
Health, hell,
Health,
healthy,
healthiness.
mental
I
health,
had way
health.
too much healthness in my life. So health and well-being comes from being able to be with people you feel good with, the community. And so that's why I did on my channel, just plugging it a minute. I talked about the ugly duckling metaphor and how powerful that was for me, thinking that you're alone, thinking that you're abused and you're by yourself and you're this stupid weird person or duck or whatever, and you're not. You're the like king of the birds, you're a swan and you're with other swans. You're like, oh, okay, oh, this is great. And I think that adds to the health of your body and your mind when you feel like you are a part of the world. Because I've had huge belongingness issues, and that makes you not feel good. So being able to belong with a group of people that get you, I think, is huge for your mental well-being. I don't
I
know
do
what do you
too.
guys make of it.
I think there's a price you pay for masking, and the more you can be your authentic self, like your natural authentic self, the more mental health effects and benefits will come from that. And then if you can have a community of other, like where you can do that and you all support each other doing that, that just magnifies it even more. So I've never been one to. I always knew I was the ugly duckling. It didn't bother me, but I didn't know there were other ducklings till I got to the gifted school, and then I'm like, oh wow, this is cool. but it didn't traumatize me being the ugly duckling by myself. I had so much. I'm like Sarah. I had a whole inner life of my own that
Yeah.
sustained me. So as long as I had that, I didn't care that I didn't fit in with other people.
What if I hadn't had that Carnegie Library though? I
Oh my
mean,
Right?
God.
Huh?
Yes.
I don't
seriously,
know how I
about
would have
what it
made it.
meant?
What a
Think about
lovely man. What a lovely man Carnegie was. I think we built libraries for everybody in the US. I think that's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
his wife made him. He was supposedly a monster, but either way, it happened.
Well, either way, it happened.
Yeah.
So that's good. And we could talk about gifted schools. We did not have them in Canada. We barely have them now in Canada, but I know you guys in the States have a better gifted issues or
Do
It
you
really
have
goes by the
problem
state,
solved.
even by the district or
You
by the
get more.
school.
do you have
It's
better quality of
varies.
do you have
Because
better
we don't even
quality,
have that now, and it's 2023.
but do you have better quality of education overall than we do?
Well, we do in the sense of the world rankings.
Mhm.
Canada is very high up there. And so we get a lot of people who come to Canada for schooling because they see the world rankings. So yeah, we're considered like the third or something in the world. So I'm like, why? but
Are are there
but I
private?
do, I mean, we do good things. We do
Yeah.
good things. And I'm a teacher, so I do good things and I know I do, but
Mhm.
what are we gonna say?
Are private schools accessible at all to the general public if they desire a more stimulating environment for their child?
They do, but they're not like the government schools, of course, like you guys, the public ones are free. There are some subsidies for some kids in like the religious schools, the Christian schools and Jewish schools and things like that, maybe from their parishes or whatever, their temples. Other than that, no. Because we have exclusive private, like rich schools, exclusive
Yeah.
schools, and
Yeah.
you have to be able to pay for that. Really,
Right.
sometimes they do have scholarships that might come up.
Mhm.
They do that occasionally, but that's pretty rare. So
Mhm.
yeah. So you guys have a cool. You were telling me, Sarah, you have this like, you can use your money, and because you were telling me that you did that with your son, and give the money to the school or something. That's a neat
No, I
thing.
just had to pay tuition out of pocket, but there are places where that's true in the States, but not where I am. Yeah. Mhm. We have charter schools in Oregon, but they don't function that way.
Oh, okay. Because I
It
have
does in a way. The funding follows the student. So whichever school your student's at gets the funding, but you don't get a voucher. Some places
Okay, yeah, we don't do that at all. We don't do
take
anything.
take to the school of their choice. Uh-huh.
Um, Oh, we do in a special needs situation, like autism, for example. They can qualify for money from the government. I think the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Education or something like that, and they can use it the way they want for any kind of therapy. But as we know, the state of gifted education in both of our countries is paltry, so
Mhm.
there really isn't very much gifted education money. That's one of
Because
the first.
most of it's not being done by gifted people. Like you have to have gifted people involved in the delivery of
And
gifted education.
I wish I could say that was true about our public schools, but it is not true. It's kind of like teaching French or teaching music. If you have a teaching degree, they'll like, here you go, teach this, and they'll give you the curriculum. And I think we all have talked about that. And because I'm a bit of a gifted advocate, in case you have noticed.
Really, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
Neither
Uh,
one of you. Yeah.
And gifted people need gifted people. And I tell that to my students. I said, there's one place that inclusion never works because we have an inclusion model, gifted education. They benefit not from being in the classroom of everybody else. Other people maybe do, but gifted kids need to be with other gifted kids. And they need to have gifted mentors because it's not okay that this person took a course in giftedness and whatever, and she's not, because she's not going to be able to guide them in the same way because she's essentially almost a different species of person. So how is she going to know what to do for these young gifted kids? We need gifted mentors. We need people who can actually help them so they don't have to grow up the way we grew up. And that is that is my journey, man. That's my mission anyway. That's something that I want to just empower kids to know that they're valuable. So that's one of my big journeys that I'm on. So what do you guys think in the States? Does that happen?
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, they can barely teach regular teaching. I don't think you can teach teaching. I think there's a natural skill or art to it. You can't just send someone to school and they come out a teacher. So they can barely teach ordinary teaching. I don't know how you're going to teach a non-gifted person how to teach the gifted.
You're not going to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Although they have gifted classes in university, they have like university classes on teaching the gifted.
I don't know anything about them, but if they're not being taught by gifted people to gifted people, I'm skeptical of their value.
Yeah, and they're not. They are not.
I mean, they could maybe raise awareness about giftedness for non-gifted.
These are not HPEG people. These are not like they're not, and like because. Well, me and one of our friends, Andrew, we have this wonderful chat where if you're 130, just for an example, and you're 160, that's a very big difference. So
it's
even
huge.
among people,
Yeah.
And so can you imagine you trying to get therapy, trying to get help, trying to get teaching, trying to get anything. And say you're 120, say whatever you are, 130, that's still higher than most people. But you're not 160, 180, which is a thing, even if it's not as easily quantified or the tests don't easily, it's still a thing because we all know each other. I'd say we're all that in this room and we all recognize each other that way. So it is an actuality. That's what I think.
Well, that's why I think it's a form of neurodivergence, because we are living in a world that is not built for us. We have to accommodate ourselves to an existing structure that does not take us into account, which is the same thing autistic people have to do.
Yeah.
ADHD, all the other forms of neurodivergence.
So we either drop out like I did.
Yeah, and me.
I literally dropped out, or we become change makers. There's really no option, maybe.
Or niche builders, which is kind of what I did.
That's a good
dropout thing, really.
I was just gonna ask, what are the other things we can do, that work? And how do we link that to women? Because we're thinking about women.
Yeah. What is there anything else we need to know about women?
Many things. I would think that as a woman, I've had various long-term partners in my life, who I thought were intellectual peers because they liked books or whatever. And now that I'm finally with a gifted man, right?
It's different.
It's totally different.
In a good way, or
I would
totally awesome. We're amazing together. There's just that. But I think quite a bit of that might have to do with the fact that, we're compatible on these levels that I wasn't compatible with prior partners. And I don't know how that works out for men. But women, it's okay maybe for the guy to be smarter. Is the guy really okay with you being smarter?
Well, see, I'm single, right? Painfully. Yeah. So, and that is, now that I'm older, I'm like, no, I'm not settling anymore because I used to settle because they are not comfortable with you doing that. And if I can get a little, not crass maybe, but a little the online dating, I would get construction workers. And I'm like, and I'd have this really great, awesome, because I'm a writer, so I can write,
construction workers can be geniuses.
Well, I don't mean it in that way. But what I mean is, okay, sure, I'm just going to take your word for that. But I'm like, buddy, why would you think that we would get along? Oh, I don't know. You're cute. And you're a girl. And I get so mad. I'm like, so do you know anything about anything? Let's talk. Well, no, I don't really. So I'm like, why would you think that we would get on with each other?
But if you made, you're a writer. So if you made your dating profile, if you targeted your dating profile toward the
Oh my
type
God.
of intellectual woman you want and away from construction workers, why would you end up with construction workers?
Because they are the ones that actually comment on my profile, and you
But
don't
then you read
know.
theirs and you see they're obviously
Well, no,
construction
that I
workers.
don't go out with them, and I don't mean
Oh,
construction workers. They're kind of a metaphor. People, don't send me letters, please. I'm just
I'm gonna
saying,
get the
you
letters.
know, I'm just
Same here.
saying that, let's say people that don't care about academia as much as I care about it, people who haven't stepped foot in the library since they were in high school.
I don't care
These are
about
the people
academia
I'm
either.
talking about.
Did then.
I'm just saying, so it's like the highly educated men, I don't know if they are, they want they want what every other man wants. And so that's what I'm struggling with, that it's okay to be gifted and a woman and still go out with people, that you don't have to pick, oh, you're smart, Cheryl. So, you don't look like Barbie, so you don't get to go out. And I think that really does, I still struggle with that issue, that I find the gifted men still want the Barbie. They still want that. They don't want someone who's going to challenge them on things.
I think it
I don't
depends on the
know.
man. I know many gifted men that are
That's my
looking for
experience.
an intelligent woman that can keep up with them and challenge. They
But
don't
I
want the
mean,
Barbie.
because I can keep up with you, fella.
They wouldn't
So
mind if she looked like Barbie, though, Jeff.
they would not
They wouldn't
mind.
throw her back because
Especially long term. Like gifted men are intelligent enough to know what makes a successful long term relationship.
well,
They're
there's
smart
something.
enough to know the Barbie is not going to be what's going to satisfy them long term. They're going to need that intellectual
So that could just be
compatibility.
a me thing and not a woman
But
thing.
if
But
yeah, like you'd have to try the dating profiles to see, because
So
I'm thinking if you made an intelligent dating profile, you're going to get other intellectuals that it resonates with that are going to respond.
no, because you're a girl. So guys just see if they can get in
I
your
think
pants.
that
well, I'm
sounds like
not
a
or you're
stereotype to
cute,
me.
or I like your eyes, or I
Yeah.
thought you were good. That's what I get.
Let me talk about this. I've got a couple things to say. So there's some interesting stuff coming out in the States, at least, about that women who are in high-powered jobs, their marriages work if they're married to a regular guy.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah. They're married to a plumber or a carpenter or whatever. Yeah. So that's interesting. The other piece is when I went back into the dating world in my 50s, and I was divorced and had been divorced for several years at that point. But my point is, I'd been out of the pool for a long time. And I found dating over 50 to be really fun. And I found lots of really wonderful, intelligent men that I enjoyed conversing with. But I found it was very easy to weed out men who weren't going to be able to handle me,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because I just would just let my scintillating intellect, as Yusuf calls it, I would just bring my scintillating intellect to the conversation, and they would, go "Boop," and run
Okay,
away.
see ya.
Like,
Same
oh,
here.
tell me more, or they'd just come right back at me, right? Just step right up and just take it on. So it wasn't hard to shuffle through and those conversations and find out who was willing to engage with me in verbal sparring, basically, because it was all chat at that point in time, right?
Yes. So I mean, I think now in my 50s, I'm gonna keep looking, obviously, because I know I'm worthy of that. Like I know it's not my fault
You
now.
just
It's
have to
like
fish in the right pond.
I think you do
Yeah.
have to fish in the right pond.
Yeah.
So, but that was one more thing I wanted to mention, that we're just worthy. We're just worthy of good. That's what I want to say.
Well, Sarah, what is your secret? How did you find your guy?
Yeah. How did you find your guy?
The miracles of the vagaries of fate. We found each other on a website where I had been having these verbal sparring matches with other men, and he played a completely different scenario. It was almost old-fashioned in a way. He calls himself a traditionalist, and I'm definitely a traditionalist. But he just got to know me, and he didn't rush it, right?
No, that's wonderful.
Yeah, none of this, you know what I mean? I'm headed down to, because men will actually post this to you. I don't know how it is for guys who are with guys, but men will actually come on your dating site and say, want to meet in the such and such parking lot and screw.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
they do that.
Yes.
you know, like,
Yes. No, I don't want to.
under
Thank
a
you.
certain set of, and you know me, I'm gifted, so I'm my response instead of no is just like, well, under a certain set of circumstances with the right person, yes. Who? Right now, this day, no,
No.
and probably not ever, because you just said that to me. No, he actually just,
Oh my God. Yeah, that's another issue. It's like,
Yeah,
no, we just met.
so he did the kind of, you see somebody at the coffee pot every day at work and you say hello. You know what I mean?
Good.
I could tell he was taking time out of his work day, because it was always at the same time. It was on his morning break, to say hello. How are you today? I thought, well, I
Yeah.
finally, after months of that, I thought, this guy's really shy. He's never gonna take another step. So I tentatively, responded. And then you know what I'm saying? So in hindsight, I know what he was doing and what was happening on his end and why it was unfolding that way. And it was good reasons, not bad ones,
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I honestly, Jeff, I don't know how much you feel about fate, but I feel like it was just meant to happen.
Mhm.
It doesn't make any sense that we found each other.
Oh, maybe it does in its own way.
Well, it does. You know what I mean? Like, how did we end up there amongst those thousands of people? How did we ever stumble across each other?
The most successful relationships I've had just happened. I was not looking for them at all. I just found myself
Yeah.
in them, and that's usually how most of my long terms work. And I deal with the same thing. Like, usually they have to be able to handle the giftedness, and usually they can't. Even the guy up here, the gifted guy that I moved to Seattle for, he has a degree in philosophy. He said
You
I was
couldn't
too
handle
deep
your
for
brain.
him. No,
Yeah.
he said you are way too deep for me, and I'm thinking,
I'm
You
like,
have a degree in
you're
philosophy.
just
gifted
giving
and
a
you have a
woman
degree in
up,
philosophy. How am I too deep?
Well, were you
And
just
and like,
giving
why is it a bad thing? I would want someone that was deep.
I mean, deep's a good thing.
But then I
isn't
realized
it?
it was analytic philosophy. It wasn't the deep kind of philosophy. It was more
Were
like
you
Oh,
even
yeah.
being deep, Jeff? Were
I
you?
don't know what he was reacting to. I don't.
Yeah,
I
you
was just.
weren't.
I wasn't being any deeper than you've seen me be in the group or on any of these videos.
No,
So
I mean, I don't think you're too deep, but then I'm deep too.
No,
I try to
I
find
really,
people that I'm not too deep with, but it
It's
catches there because it creates a gap. It creates once
yes.
you're too whatever, too creative, too passionate, too intense, too deep. It
too
creates that
demanding.
divide, that gulf between the two of you.
I mean, yeah, it's just yeah.
But
Man,
my partner doesn't think he's gifted.
But he.
really?
That
You
thing.
know he is? Did he ever been
A lot of
tested? 'Cause
people don't. A lot of
most of us
adults
have
I
don't.
don't
If
care
they
whether
weren't
he thinks.
identified in school,
I have gifted DAR after
yeah,
working
me
with
too.
gifted
kids.
dark.
Yeah, I've gifted DAR. I mean, really, I really
I do
do.
too.
Like, I'll
Well,
see a stranger that I don't know, little kid walking by, and I'll be like, "Hi," and then he'll
Yeah.
come over and start telling me about the rocket ship he's building in his backyard. Seriously.
yes, yes. Well,
I
you did
really
that.
have gifted dark. But so I know he is, but I don't think he ever has had his IQ assessed. And I think that he might be 2E. I think he might have some obstacles to being an easy reader
Mm,
that made him feel that he wasn't as smart as other students. Despite that fact, he excelled in school. So that tells you one thing right there,
well,
right?
obviously.
Despite the fact that he was being held back by his whatever challenge he's got going on there. Because he just flat out doesn't enjoy reading because it's just too much of a slog.
Well,
It's just
yes, that's
really
okay.
so there's something there, he's got like a processing glitch or something in there, right? So, but he doesn't think he is, but he is. He can engage with me very deeply, and he can challenge me, and he can thrill me with his mind. Like, he can say things and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I never
How
thought of
old is he?
Don't you love it when somebody says something and you're like,
Yeah.
Yes,
"Never
I
thought
do.
of that."
I get
And all my
stimulated.
It's like,
right?
oh my God, what a
And it
great
almost
thing.
never happens, right? It almost never
Yes.
happens. He does it to me all the time.
Man,
Now,
you are so
part of it,
lucky now. I'm
part
so
of
jealous.
it is that different we have different intellectual interests rather than the same, you would
Okay.
think, right? Okay. So I can teach him and he can teach me.
Which is beautiful.
He can say stuff to me that I do not know because I don't know about technology, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I can talk to him about social sciences and things like that and help him make new connections. But he's had his background. He's just, I don't know, he's just an amazing man. Obviously, I'm a huge fan or I wouldn't be with him. He is a little bit older than I am. He's in 58
Mm.
and I'm 53, about to be 54. And so he's a really nice balance for me in other ways too. We're just wonderful together. We're just made for each other. We just don't know why it took
Oh,
so long for us to meet each other. Because good
Yes.
grief, I mean, we're already far into autumn, both of us. But I'm
Yeah.
grateful. I'm grateful that we found each other 3 years ago.
Um,
So, and I know that this can happen, that gifted people can really partner effectively with other people. It really
yeah.
does take place. It doesn't have to be a lonely world.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
it can be a really hard, confusing world. I'm thinking back on a student that I had in one of my summer camp classes, and I usually would have mostly boys because of what I would teach, but
Mhm.
also, and a certain kind of boy, a boy who would be interested in literature, but the way I would
Mhm.
approach it would be more interesting to a boy maybe than to a girl. Well, here came tromping in one girl into my middle school group, right? And so far they had walked in, I'd just been like, okay, geek, nerd, you know what I mean? Right? Like you could tell it was written all over them, the different things as they walked in, right? Artistic, you know what I mean? Then here walks in this smoking hot 11-year-old girl. I know you're not supposed to say that girls are smoking. I'm sorry, she was totally so cute. And she was all done up and she was adorable. She was smarter than all the rest of them put together. And she just took them on, and they were smart. It wasn't that they were super smart.
Yeah.
And then she finally opened her mouth and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be good. Right.
Well,
This
good
is
for her, man, because that's what we get. That's
what
our experience.
I was thinking. I remember thinking, I think this is the only time I've ever had a whole group of highly exceptionally profound, right? There that I was thinking, we're going to really get, and then she opened her mouth and she started it. So at the end of the term, she just happened to be I was walking out behind her, just worked out that way. I didn't even have to make it happen. I said, I sure didn't know what to think when you walked in at the beginning and you were the only girl. I said, but you have absolutely handled it the best way possible. And she said, yeah, well, I've had a lot of practice. I'm used to it.
Yeah. And is that not the gifted girl
I'm used to
experience?
being the only girl in the room and the smartest one and being pretty. She can't help what she looks like. Well, I mean, I guess she could have not. She was cute. She was all done up, she was adorable. I'm sure all their little boy hearts were like, oh my
Oh my goodness.
She walked in. And of course, the only available desk was all the way across the room, But yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
I think about her. I thought about her when we talked about this because honestly, she had their brains and female savvy.
Yes, which is a thing, which I would
I
say is a
don't
thing.
have female savvy. I have the opposite of female savvy. I make people angry constantly by just being myself. I'm not as bad at it now that I'm older, but when I was
Yeah,
younger,
I do too. Is that a female thing?
Well, I
women
think
are
it can be. I think
not
it
do
can
that.
be.
Women are
Um,
expected to not do it, and then especially if we're in an all male environment, we're expected to not do it.
I think the masking thing was something I did for so long. So I didn't get a lot of that because I was very other focused. And a lot of women are very other focused. That whole
Like putting
administrative
others'
thing.
needs before yours?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like don't outshine people, Cheryl. Don't usurp people. My mother said that all the freaking time. I'm like, well, then you need to be better, Mom, because you're not very good. It's hard for me
This
now.
is where it's so interesting, Cheryl. I thought we could talk about this because we both came out of our childhood traumatized.
Yes, we
But
did.
but see, nobody told me that, Cheryl.
What do you
Nobody
mean?
ever said to me, stop doing that.
Oh, they
You're-
said it to me all the time. God, it was
But I'm
every
saying-
They
day.
probably said it to me, but I didn't pay attention.
Well, I'm just saying,
I was really
Cheryl
good at ignoring people.
and I ended up in our lives going through a lot of the same challenges because of trauma that we experienced when we were young.
Yeah.
But some of what we experienced was completely opposite.
Yes.
Some of
that
the
is
trauma or the
You know,
reaction to it.
like what I just talked about, nobody ever said to me, stop doing that. You're making yourself stand out. Stop doing that. You sound like what makes you think you know everything? Nobody ever said anything. Well, one third grade teacher said to me, you think you're so smart, don't you? And
Oh
I was,
yeah.
well, what is, I didn't even know what she was saying. I was 8, for God's sake.
Yes.
I didn't know what she was saying.
yeah.
I'm like, well, but it's hard when a kid finishes all the multiplication tables the first day that you start the lesson.
And
And
yes,
it's
yes.
gonna go on.
All I had to do
forever.
was watch Schoolhouse Rock. Anybody can do
Oh,
it.
Schoolhouse
You're
Rock.
gonna have
Oh
to
my
come
God.
up
Oh
with
my
something
God.
else for that kid to do.
Mhm.
And then they're mad. And then you can't figure it out. Did you guys ever had that? They're mad because you're good at stuff.
My
No,
mom was constantly irritated. Like I got
And
the you
that
think you're so
was one of
smart
the
thing
hardest
all the
things.
time.
And yeah, I mean, I know. So that happened to you too as a guy, Jeff. But yeah, I got that all the time. God, why do you do that all the time? Why do you always want to talk all the time? Why do you like all that stuff? Why are you so good at things all the time? I had in grade 8, when I was 13 years old, the counselor who was supposed to help us, Cheryl, there's boys who can't read. Why are you that way?
The
Why are you
counselor
why do you
told you
need-"
this?
Yeah. And it really hurt my feelings because I'm like,
Oh,
what
no,
am
we
I
would have
supposed to
fought.
do? Not read? What is that? What am I supposed to take
And
from
what are
that?
you saying to me exactly?
Am I
Let me-
not supposed to read? Apparently, it was bad because I could read, and these, let's just say, people who couldn't, were somehow something that she cared about more. Because I was trying to get help because people were abusing me and I was different and I didn't know what to do and people was always taking advantage and all this stuff. And it's like, what?
You thought your problems weren't real.
And
because
it was hard, right? And that's all I got. So I kind of got what you were saying, Sarah, was that yeah, why are you mad? Because I'm good at stuff. Why are you
Yeah.
mad? And then they try to compete with you, which is super pathetic because you can't.
Do you think the counselor meant I got to go help these kids who've got worse problems than yours? Is that what the counselor meant when they said that?
I think that's what she meant, but there was more to it than that, as though I should feel bad because I could read because I wasn't a boy. Kind of like that, because back it was a smaller town back
You were bucking the establishment.
I was certainly, because I was, Goodwill Hunting smart.
Right.
Right. With those, no offense to those guys, they would kill for him. They loved him, but it was not the Harvard echelon people, right? It was the lower, kind of people that acted that way. And so that's where I grew up too. And I was like that. And it was like, and they just did not understand me and they did not understand me in the schools. And so I just wanted to say, I agree that I think we should never again make people feel bad because they're good at stuff.
I'm pretty good at not internalizing like those little subtext messages and what people, especially if it's from strangers or from people that are not close to me.
I unfortunately did.
And do you think that's part of the OE thing?
Well, yeah, I think too, maybe it had something to do with the psychopathic, narcissistic family members that were constantly telling me how bad I was.
Oh, that, right.
Everyone's better than you, Cheryl. You have to listen to
But
everyone.
you knew you weren't. Like, that's whatever people were saying about me, I could look inside myself and say, well, that's not true. I'm
when I was really
directly
little,
experiencing it myself. I know better than they do.
I mean, now, of course, I know, but I
I
kind of,
had, I had both things. I had what Jeff said and I had what Cheryl said.
yeah, so you had both things.
I had both things going on at the same time.
What was that like?
Well, it's just like me because my mind, what I said earlier about not focusing on certain areas, you know, and becoming very knowledgeable in a certain area or very interested in a certain area, my mind um, is super broad and conceptual, right? So I see this, I'm looking at it something, and then I end up seeing it in all these different ways from all these different locations, all these different parts of society,
Yeah,
all these different parts of, and that's what I enjoy so much. And so for me to hold two opposing truths at the same time that's just kind of how my mind works, if that makes any sense.
absolutely. Holistic. Kind of, you can see the bigger picture, the big picture of everything.
Oh, definitely. I see a bigger picture. I don't know that I see the big picture. I would never hold myself up as some sort of, you know, uh, person who has a deeper understanding of reality than anyone else does. But I do see, I certainly am interested in looking at a bigger picture than I think even most gifted people are. Kind of like what you experienced, Jeff, with this partner where it didn't work out, where the philosophy professor's telling you you're too deep. And I'm going to take a stab here and say, you probably weren't even being as deep as you could have been, right?
Yeah, I
No, you
remember
probably
we were
weren't.
talking
We're
about.
right, because when do you ever get the chance to actually talk about something as deeply as you'd like to?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty rare,
Uh,
but
never.
it's so fulfilling. Damn it, it's so rewarding when
I
you
usually
get.
talk about whatever. I find people. I'm really good at surrounding myself with people I can do that with, though. Because if they can't, they usually get filtered out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, another thing about the partnering too, because I think it's interesting to maybe even important to bring to that conversation, is I realized later in life what had been happening with me all along, because I didn't know that this was a thing. I found out about sapiosexuality and that you're attracted
Oh,
to someone's mind rather than their body.
Yeah,
So
I've
like,
heard of-
yeah, so like with the teen, where everybody else, the teens are pairing off and they're all wanting to be sexual together. And I was like, looking around and I'm like, I'm not attracted to anybody
yep.
here. You know what I mean? So I became aware of that as I became as in my adult life. And what I found out is that when I'm attracted to the mind, then I am attracted to the body.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
And so I
Same
thought
here.
there, yeah, that was very interesting
And vice versa.
to understand that. Well, no, for me, first here,
Yeah,
then the
no, I
rest.
mean, if I'm not attracted to the mind, then I'm never
Yeah.
going to be attracted.
Yeah, never. Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's not
Yeah.
just you like the way they look or whatever.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah,
No,
I
the
get,
mind
you know,
has to
women
be
are
there.
like, go to the Chippendales, and I'm just like, why would you, what are you doing? You know?
Like it, yeah, it doesn't do it
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
no, same here. That never. I'm not a visual person.
Yeah, well, I am very visual. That's what's interesting about it. I'm extremely visual. I'm so visual that it's difficult to cope with. It's one of my
Wow.
OE that can be both pleasurable and painful.
Yeah, I wonder if that is an interesting comment because I'm super auditory. Most
Yeah,
of my PTSD stuff comes from the fact that I had a lot of noise trauma that I'm still dealing with. So I'm very, I mean, I am visual up to a point, but definitely auditory for sure. So I
That I
wonder
have,
if we're all unique. I don't know.
I have that too. My senses are really strong, powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, the five senses.
Oh God, I would say that that's something that most gifted people
Do you
have.
think that's true? You think
I
we do?
do. I think
the sensory
the
overexcitability.
sensory overload kind of
I
thing.
don't, but I don't, I like it. I don't get overloaded,
God, I
but
know it.
I don't do certain things, you know, like I don't
Um, yeah,
places. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
like the stimulation.
I don't. It's overwhelming. I get overwhelmed, man. It's hard for me to go outside. It's just, but then
Uh,
it's hard for me to do very much these days.
Can you talk more about that if we have time? That the that it's hard to go outside because of your own senses overwhelm you?
Yeah, it is. It's because it's, and then I get embarrassed sometimes because it doesn't seem to bother other people. And I think it would have been that way if I hadn't have had such terrible noise trauma, like things that were noisy that traumatized me. But it does. And and then you're trying. For when I was younger, I tried to pretend that it was okay, but that was enormous effort to try and pretend you're okay when the fire alarm goes off at school, or where someone's yelling at you, or like really noisy construction or whatever. I can't do that now. I can't do it at all. And now I tend to get angry because I'm older now. So noise makes me mad now, which apparently is a common enough thing for some people. But yeah, it's exhausting.
Mhm.
It's exhausting sometimes to drive, because people, sometimes they have very noisy cars or motorcycles, or you're trying to go to a mall and people are being loud, or their kids are being loud, and other people don't seem to be bothered by that, but I am so bothered by that.
What do
So
you
that's
do?
I mean,
Yeah, what happens when you say you're
um,
bothered? Like, what happens?
well, a few things could happen depending on the situation.
Mm.
I might get really mad. No, I
Just
never
from
Okay.
hearing a
never
motorcycle
say
or a
anything to
kid?
people, but
Because
I might
that's
have
the normal
out
part of life.
what I might I mean, I do leave now because I've had people say that for your own mental health, it's good to leave the situation. So
I think so, yeah.
um, I think I do that now. I try to go in earlier times, which is a lot harder now because I'm busy during the week. So I only have the weekend that everybody else has. Um, so I try to find times to go, and it's not normally a busy time, like shopping. And I don't go, especially since the pandemic. I find I don't need to be around people as much as I used to. I don't know if you guys had that. Like, I don't find I miss it going to concerts,
Yeah, I
or
don't either.
going to restaurants or stuff. I don't really miss it. I don't know. I like Amazon a lot. So if I can buy things on Amazon, I just bought these really cool sandals that I couldn't find other places. So that's what I do. I don't go out as much unless I need to. Um, but I am a law of attraction person, which I think we should add in here just before we do leave, that I find it really does help me. If you're releasing stuff that people know about law of attraction, and attracting better things in your life, because there are different levels of ability to attract goodness in your life. And if you move up the levels, then you get better things in your life just naturally because you're in a better level. If do you guys know what I mean?
Well, I know what you mean by the law of attraction, but I didn't quite follow your logic.
Oh, sorry, I've been doing it for a long time now. I'm fairly well versed.
Is it creative visualization?
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of a thoughts become things. And how trauma plays into it
Mhm.
is something, because I go to a church that kind of does that too. And it's like, that which is unlike, which you have chosen for yourself, has to come up and be released. So it's like you get a lot of things that you struggle with. But then as you ask the universe for things that you want, it does tend to go away. Like, and you do attract better people, and you do attract better experiences and better jobs, and things like that, because your level of vibration is higher. Like, because like a bit of like string theory, and the strings vibrate. It's like law of attraction is connected to all of that, to quantum mechanics, because you can affect the strings vibration level by your thoughts and your abilities. And the more powerful you are in attracting things, the better the things are that you attract.
So you are using this to interact with your auditory overwhelm?
Yes. And
Okay.
I have found it help. I have really found help there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting to me. And people think, oh, that doesn't make sense, but I have done it. So
Mm-hmm.
it does make sense for me. Even
Mm-hmm.
like, I can give you a crazy example if you like. The amount of airplanes that are in a sky at any particular time. I have been able, through the law of attraction and asking for things, to almost never hear one now. And I used to hear them all the time. Things like that. The amount of crows, because crows were a trauma thing for me, because we used to live next to a place that was crowing all the time. The amount of crows that I hear has lessened significantly since I have been working on healing my noise trauma. So it's something that I do that I'm really very excited about. It's the way I live my life. It's my passion. It's my job in a lot of ways, but it's a bit woo woo for some people who don't understand that we actually create our external reality. Once you can understand that we create our external reality, then yeah, you can have almost anything, really. Although
Well,
it's
we certainly perceive an external reality.
yeah. Although it's challenging. I
So-
got into
so-
like that.
I'm intrigued with what you're saying, because we perceive an external reality,
Yes,
right?
of course we do. We all do. And maybe we all do a
Maybe-
different one.
And like, we think right now that the other people in this conversation are experiencing this at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Even
And
from
the same
various,
thing.
yeah, and the same thing. But if in fact we can only perceive what we can perceive. And
Yes.
so you're saying you don't change how you perceive the noise. You're
No.
changing
I changed the noise.
you're changing the noise itself. Interesting. It would be interesting to be with you and explore that more.
Yes, it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, has
And-
anybody done that with you? Like,
No, not that
are
many
we
people.
hearing
Well,
the same thing right now? Is it the same intense? Can you hear that noise? It would be
some
interesting.
people have done that, and to them it's not as loud because I have very sensitive hearing. So
Mhm.
like the Spock hearing, as they say.
Yeah,
And they're like,
right.
no, it doesn't really bother me. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got a
Bionic woman.
yes, like that. Oh, she was a role model too, wasn't she?
She was
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Yeah.
She was Lindsay Wagner. Oh my God. And
Right.
Wonder Woman.
All right.
They were such good role models. I loved her. I still love
Right.
her. So that was a wonderful way to grow up, in that we had so many powerful women, like Police Woman, Mary Tyler Moore, even, Wonder Woman.
Well, just in the newspaper, always a new woman just did this for the first time. Just did
It's
that for
so great. So so I have had that, but I know that it's a possibility because I am a seeker of knowledge. So I've read texts, I've read things, and I know other people do it too. It's a rare thing. But I had someone say to me once, I have to tell you guys this because it's something I think about. And it was somebody from my church, actually, that he studied with this other guru guy somewhere else, and he was saying that the man was so able to manifest his external reality that if he wanted a gold piece, like a piece of gold, to manifest itself in his hand, he could do that.
Mhm.
And it would show up because it's all energy, and energy is changeable. It's I'm going to try and say it's manipulatable. You can manipulate the energy in the world and
and what I'm saying is it's perceivable. Like, another person might see a lump of coal in the man's hand.
yes, it's perceivable. I think that's true too. I think it is perceivable. It is partially what you perceive and your ability to perceive. And I think the healing, if I can say it, the healing from PTSD is the healing from the perceptual difficulties that you have had because you were made to perceive things in a different way. And your healing comes when you start perceiving them in a more accurate way. Like, I am a good person. I am deserving of things. You weren't right when you said that about me, Mom. Things like that. So that's my experience of it. I don't know. What do you think, Sarah?
Well, in therapy, that's cognitive distortions, and a good therapist can help you work through and reframe and reperspectivize your trauma. But that's different than seeing a gold in somebody's hand.
I guess it is different.
That does sound a little woo-woo
I mean
to
it
me.
differently.
Yeah,
But
well, that's why I'm intrigued to explore it,
yeah, because I love to talk about it. It's pretty exciting.
Well, like when we take drugs, we see different stuff than if we didn't take the drugs.
Of course you do. Yeah, because your system's been altered.
What is going on here with this perception thing? I mean, God, we could talk about that for the next 50 years, right?
We good, couldn't we?
They explore things with people and be like, okay, I hear a crow. Do you hear a crow? You know, and what is that about? But she stopped hearing that. That's a trigger.
That's the question, isn't it? Is it just my world that's changing, or do other people not hear the crows and I'm changing the whole world, or am I just changing my own world?
Right.
You're not changing the whole world.
Man, you don't know that. But I'm just saying. Well, I'm saying I don't think you know that.
I don't know that the mind
maybe.
has
See,
that kind of
Sarah?
power over external reality.
I do. That's the whole point. That's what I'm doing this for. Right? You do have the power over external reality. Because
yogis sleep on a bed of nails. You know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, I'm not going to.
But they're not changing the nails. They're controlling their internal experience of the nail. They're not like making a crow not be there with their mind.
And that's what I'm saying is the perception. That's what I'm trying to link right now is
it's possible.
Saying is that the perception, perhaps I'm tossing this out. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not like my underlying tenet of my, of my concept of existence. I'm tossing this out. If perception, all we have is our perception of reality.
Which is subjective.
Which is subjective. Exactly. That's my point. And also incomplete. We don't see the ultraviolets.
Oh,
right?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
We don't hear so many things that are happening around us. If we did, we'd go mad. Right. So we've got this perception thing, and we can sleep if we have enough control over how we respond to our environment. We can sleep on a bed of nails. Right. So is Cheryl saying something that is impossible? Because I hear what you're saying. It sounds like she's saying something impossible. Because that was my initial response too, but I kept listening and I said, is this a perception related experience?
Well, that's what I don't know, because I don't have anybody to really talk about it with. I do have, because it comes from a church that I go to called Science of Mind. You can look it up.
No, I know.
And they believe that too. So I have had ministers. They haven't gotten as deep into it as I have gotten into it, because being as alone as much as I am, I do have more time. Like, I don't have a family. I don't have those responsibilities. So I have, as much as I wish I could have done that, obviously. Thanks, Mom, but whatever. You know what I mean? I have had this freedom to now explore everything. So I might be just changing my own, because like Abraham Hicks is a teacher and a mystical person herself, and she says that we each only experience the world ourselves. Like the universe is, everybody's universe is unique, and we all experience our own. So that is possible that I'm not actively changing it for other people, but maybe just myself. But either way, it works for me. I can go out now. I can do things now. I can experience things in a way that's less traumatic for me and less anguishing and, agonizing for me. So that's what I'm excited about.
Well, coincidentally enough, if we do this book club, this is one of the exact things that Northrop Frye covers in the book. Perception and creative perception.
So that's kind of, I just wanted to share, because I think it's helped me so much to come back from things that there's no way back from. If I can borrow the line from Dr. Strange, you came back from somewhere there's nowhere back from. And then like, yes, I did. And you can do it too.
Well, that's a good mental health note to end on. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up, or to wrap up with?
About women and giftedness.
Women, about women in general, or gifted women, or mental health and women. Really, anything you want to throw in.
Women, giftedness, and mental health. I don't know that I have anything else to add, but I'm thinking about all these awesome women that I've met who have allowed themselves to live a life of the mind. and it's looked different for the different ones, you know? Can think of spinster ladies that I knew growing up who still had their high boots that they buttoned up above their ankles, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
they had never married because they didn't want to leave aside their own interests, you know? They pursued their own interests. They went off to Africa and were, you know, physicians amongst the tribes people. You know what I mean? I just happen to
I
know all
do.
these awesome old ladies when I was growing up. And I think about women I know now, women younger than I am, and, you know, they're forging ahead with these marriages where they actually share the responsibility of the child rearing, you know, and they both make sure that each one is able to pursue their um passions, you know, and their work in the world. And I think about the women I've known who just have forged ahead no matter what has happened in their life
Hmm.
to profoundly impact the world around them,
Yeah.
maybe on a small scale and maybe on a global scale. Wow, I didn't know I was going to choke
It's
myself up.
That
so
was very
wonderful. It was
powerful,
so
inspiring,
wonderful.
though.
Yeah, because it is a woman's day. And, you know, this trauma thing, it sucks, but you can shake it. Like Cheryl's saying the same thing. You can
Yeah.
shake it, and you can shake it, and you can start to step into the life, the gift, not not just the giftedness, but the gift that you're bringing.
Yes. And if I can add to that, which was just so profound and beautiful, Sarah, don't let anybody tell you who you are. That's
Right.
all I heard when I was younger. You can't do this, Cheryl. You can't do this, Cheryl. And then, you know, mental health people supposed to be helping me. Oh, you
Right.
know, you're too disabled to do this, Cheryl. You're never going to do that, Cheryl. Don't let people tell you what you can do. I am living proof that you don't have to listen to that. You know, in all intents and purposes,
Amen.
right? Like,
Amen.
I
No, that's a
shouldn't
big
be
one for
here.
women. A woman.
And I'm here, a woman.
Yeah. Well, no, seriously. Yes. Don't listen. Do
Don't
not listen
listen.
to the
You
lies.
hear everything. And, you know, and
Don't
gifted
listen
women get
to
it
the lies.
more. They're like, oh, you know, just be polite and don't get yourself dirty and don't whatever. Do what you want, sister. You're amazing and we love you. And, you know, come and join us. That's what I say.
Mm.
Yeah, well, thank y'all. Come and join us. We have Zoom meetings. We have a Discord, a Facebook group. You can contact me at primalhex, primalhex at gmail.com, or on Twitter. Cheryl, I'll put your YouTube channel in the description. If you
Oh,
have
thank you,
anything else
Nathan.
you want to promote or announce, either of you.
You know, I do have a YouTube channel as well, which I'm going to actually, you know, you've inspired me, Jeff. So I'm going to talk more about gifted people on my channel because I think it's something worth saying. And that's why I wanted us to talk about this in the first place, because we're adding to the ethos of the universe. And maybe people will see it and know that we're here, that we exist, and that, you know, we're taking up space.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think it is important because there are gifted female workshops and things you can take, but I just don't see anybody talking about it as part of the public conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know that giftedness in general is part of the public conversation much anymore, especially now that it's so stigmatized. I mean, they're cutting gifted programs, they're reframing it as elitism and supremacy. And so, this
Right.
is, along with so many other things, this is not the best time to be gifted positive.
Yeah.
Right.
But we are.
Yeah, which is why I think it's even more important to do so. So
So
yes, we
that's
definitely are. Come and join us. You can meet people like Cheryl and Sara and other people that I've had on the channel. And I guess I'll see you at the next one.
Later, Gator.
see
Thank
you
you.
later,
Thank you
everybody.
again. Have a
Great.
happy Sunday and happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day,
A
everybody.